Hey, Wemberg World Entertainment. Vincent D'Onofrio has come out and said he wants to play Swamp Thing for the DCU. Yeah, don't forget, Swamp Thing seems to have been taken off of the slate altogether, and we don't quite know what's happening. But Vincent D'Onofrio has now come out and explained that he wants to play the character. And if someone of his caliber of acting is coming out and saying he wants to be this character, I can see it being put back on the slate and James Gunn going, absolutely. So, when you think about it, Vincent D'Onofrio, he's given us one of the most terrifying and complex and flat out mesmerizing villains in comic book history as Winston Fleck, aka, of course, the Kingpin. He's a man of barely contained rage, a hulking figure who can command a room with a whisper and shatter his enemies with brutal, explosive violence. We see him as a monster, a manipulator, and a killer, but the character that Vincent D'Onofrio says he has a deep personal connection to, it's one of profound brokenness when you think about it, and a desperate capacity for love of all things. And it's not the character you would think of, because it is, of course, Swamp Thing. Like, this is the guy who embodies Marvel's most formidable villain, and he seems to be emotionally drawn to the DC tragedy of Swamp Thing. So let's take a look at the article that talks about this and see exactly what it is he says. So it's saying Vincent D'Onofrio currently stars as Winston Fleck, aka the Kingpin, in Marvel's Daredevil Born Again, and will likely continue to appear as the villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for years to come. However, there is one particular DC comic character he would jump at the chance to play. D'Onofrio has expressed interest in playing Swamp Thing on social media in the past, and the actor explained what draws him to the powerful Earth Elemental in more detail during an appearance at LA Comic Con over the weekend. So this is what he said at Comic Con over the weekend, the LA Comic Con that is. He says, "I've always been attracted to people that are broken, and he's like broken. He's not only heartbroken, but his whole life is broken into a million pieces, and it's like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. He's not attractive, he lives in a swamp, it's tough, and he's in love, and that's an incredible thing. And also the narration, he was so emotional and at times so touching, I couldn't believe it. By the time the run of Swamp Thing that I've read in my late 20s or my early 30s, but I'm thinking it's just his emotional life." So that's what he said about wanting to play it, is because the character is so broken. So could D'Onofrio actually get the opportunity to play Swamp Thing in the DCU at some point? Again, he is a little busy making Matt Murdock's life hell in the MCU at the moment, but time may be on his side. Logan and Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny director James Mangold, is still attached to helm a Swamp Thing movie for DC Studios, but James Gunn recently revealed that the filmmaker has yet to turn in a script, so we might be waiting for a while for any official word. From what I remember, the official word was that Swamp Thing was pretty much cancelled, that they were moving on to other things. And there's a lot of things that are being cancelled. He's even come out now and said basically that, yeah, the Authority movie definitely isn't happening. So, and do remember, that was meant to be the second movie. It was meant to be Superman, then the Authority. But Mangold did previously share a few intriguing details on his plans for the character, while also explaining why he decided to make himself available for this particular project. And he said, "As soon as I heard James Gunn was taking over DC, I just saw it as an opportunity to throw my hat down." So basically, it doesn't even sound like it's the case of, oh, I just love James Gunn and all things. It's literally, I think there's an opportunity there to get work. That's all that really sounds like when you think about it. So it's the case of, will this movie actually happen? So that's the biggest question I think we're all asking, because at the moment, the way the DCU is being structured and what we're seeing and where they're going, Swamp Thing doesn't look like it's going to be included anywhere, at least anytime soon. We got it seemingly focusing very much on the Superman end of things, particularly for the big screen, because our first movie, of course, was Superman. Our next movie is Supergirl, and then the next movie after that will be obviously Clayface, and then we're getting Man of Tomorrow, which is basically Superman 2. But there's no other movies in the pipeline as of yet, other than Matt Reeves' The Batman. And James Gunn, of course, is still trying to work on Brave and the Bold, which he's also talked a bit about changing ideas and stuff with that. But nowhere are all these other movies and even TV shows that he was lining up. Like, we haven't heard anything in almost a year, I would assume, for Paradise Lost. He's spoken about Wonder Woman being a priority, but not Paradise Lost. So where's that gone? Booster Gold, where's that gone? Seemingly that was cancelled. Or has it? Waller seems to be a mess that they cannot figure out or get off the ground. From what we're hearing, that's meant to be cancelled as well. So the entire first slate, the 8-year slate that he announced, isn't happening. The whole Gods and Monsters thing, that is not the slate we're getting. And in that slate, of course, was Superman, the Authority, Supergirl, Buster Gold, Waller, and of course Swamp Thing, Creature Commandos and stuff like that. And so far all we had out of all of that was Creature Commandos and Superman. That's it. That's all that was on that slate that we've actually got. Because Peacemaker Season 2 wasn't even on that slate. So all that slate seems to be gone. The only thing that is on it that's still coming is Supergirl. But Swamp Thing, now the show that they did have, which I'm not sure if it's still available to watch, it was on Prime, so whether or not they still have it there or not, I don't know. They only did one season, and it's actually a really decent season as well, and it sucks because it ends on a cliffhanger type thing and stuff like that. It was a great story. But the studio panicked when it was coming out, and they cancelled the show before they even released it. And then they kind of second-guessed about whether or not they should even release it. And they eventually did release it, but you were kind of watching this thing where you're like, why am I even watching this? It's cancelled. And it's even worse when you're watching a show that's actually good. The structure of it was good, the performances were good, the writing, the story was all good. And then you're sitting there going, wow, they cancelled this thing. And there doesn't seem to be any indication of them trying to revive that, especially when James Gunn came in. So it's kind of like, what could they do with Swamp Thing? If they do a new Swamp Thing, would they go in the direction that that show was? Or do they go in a completely different direction? What do they do? We never found out what their exact plan for it was. But all we knew was James Mangold was meant to be the guy who was going to direct it. Didn't necessarily mean he was going to write it or have any involvement in the story. When we're looking now at the way the DCU is structured with James Gunn, you know, oh, Andy Muschietti, he's going to do Brave and the Bold all of a sudden. Andy Muschietti's going to do it, but he's not going to have any involvement in the story. I'm doing that. Could have the same thing happen with that. But again, if someone like Vincent D'Onofrio is coming out and saying, I want to play the character, I think you're going to start seeing them scramble. Especially Warner Brothers. They'll probably be turning around to Gunn and saying, if we can get someone like Vincent D'Onofrio to be this character, find a way to get this movie done and do it fast. So we'll wait and see what actually happens. And if it does happen, what do you guys think? Do you want to see a Swamp Thing movie? Because remember, it's meant to be a movie. Where do you think it could fit into the overall DCU that we've seen so far? And of course, what do you think about Vincent D'Onofrio playing the character? Think that's a good choice? Do you think it's putting him a bit too much in the villain roles for all these comic book genres? Let us know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe and all that good stuff. Cheers. I'll catch you in the next one.